Let's begin by offering our respects to the founder Acharya of ISKCON, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram.
Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Taruvyaschа Kripa Sindhu Vya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay, very happy to see and welcome. We have with us Lal Melwani, Devina, Disha Jadwani, Disha Melwani, Divya, Karuna Jadwani, Khushbu. Then we have Lal Melwani, Mehek Bakshani, Nageshwar Rao, and Kalavati. Are you joining us for the first time?
No, ma'am. No, Mataji. It was my grandparents.
Oh, it's okay. It's you, Saket. Thank you. Okay. Whom did I miss? 1 second. I lost the screen. Oh, we have Anjali, Mehek, Venkatchari Prabhu. My parents are there. And then we have Venkatesh Prabhu, Varsha Mayani, and R.O. I don't know who is R.O. Okay. So what did we see in the previous class?
We saw about the two souls, Anu Atma and Vibhu Atma, and how they reside in the heart of each and every entity, the
Yes.
size of Anu Atma and the size of Vibhu Atma.
Yes.
We also saw that we are qualitatively the same as God, but quantitatively we are obviously very, very, very like insignificant.
Yeah.
So we are servants of the God, that we have to understand.
Yes. Very nice. Anybody else can recall any of the points from the previous class?
Hare Krishna, sir.
Hare Krishna.
In the verse 2.20, we saw that Krishna clearly makes the difference between the soul and body.
Yes.
Then he says that there is no birth for the soul, he is unborn, he is eternal, ever existing, and he is the oldest of all that exists.
Yes. Very nice.
Only the body dies, and when the body dies, only the body dies, and the soul is eternally. It exists eternally.
Yes.
Then,
Very
as
nice.
Mehak said, that we saw two kinds of souls: the Anu Atma, which is the minute particle of soul that refers to we. Vibhu Atma refers to the super soul, which is the Lord. And they both reside in the heart of the living entity. The size of the super soul is the size of the thumb.
Yes. Very good.
Then we saw the difference in consciousness, which is God and soul. And then 2.21, we saw that the soul is unborn, it is indestructible, Avinashi.
Yes.
Then we also saw that our fear mortality is pointer to our immortality.
Correct. Very nice.
2.22, we saw the process of the soul moving from one body to another. Example, like the way we change our old garments into new, the same way when the body dies, the soul takes, he acquires a new body,
Yes.
and this continues to happen. And then it says death is a comma, not a full stop.
Good. Very nice.
And then the last part we saw that the death is not the end, it's just the new beginning.
Yes. Very nice.
When you get Lord in your life, when you get Lord in your life, while change the game of your life.
Yeah, the Lord can change the rules of the game for his devotees.
Games of your life, sorry.
Yeah.
And then we saw the 3 stages of the reincarnation.
Yeah.
And then we ended with the example of a picture where there are 2 parrots on a tree, which shows the soul and the super soul, which refers to the human being and to the Lord.
Yes. Very nice.
This is how we ended our last chapter.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Divya.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
So here, in the big breakdown of the chapter, we finished section 1. In section 1 of chapter 2, we saw Arjuna's further doubts, and eventually, of course, he surrenders in 2.7, and he gives his last reason not to fight, which is indecision. And we are now actually in section 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, of the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is giving arguments to defeat Arjuna's compassion reason as to why he does not want to fight. So the reason that one of the Arjuna's first reason is that he's feeling compassion. Yes. And Krishna is defeating that compassion argument by giving knowledge, by giving jnana about the difference between the body and the soul. So in this section, actually, Krishna is very clearly, he's making a very clear distinction between body and the soul, because many a times people think that both are the same, or we identify ourselves with the body that we have. But Krishna is clearly making a distinction between these two, which is very, very crucial to understand any philosophy, any lesson in spiritual life begins with this understanding that we are not the body, we are spirit, soul. See, some paths, they don't believe in the existence of the soul. And some paths, they believe in the soul, but they do not believe in reincarnation. But actually both go hand in hand, because the soul is changing bodies. So reincarnation definitely does exist. Life does not end at death and does not begin at birth. So the soul is transmigrating through different bodies. So Krishna very clearly makes this distinction so that we can understand the future chapters. So we are in this subsection, actually, vision of the seers of truth. How people who have scriptural knowledge, how do they view the world? So we are in this subsection within the section 2, vision of the seers of truth. So today we have to start from 2.23. I think I went too much ahead. Okay, who can read today?
I can read.
Yes, thank you, Divya. Okay, let's listen to the shloka.
नैनं छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापो न शोषयति मारुतः
Ready?
Yes.
The soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor burnt by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind.
So Krishna continues his discussion on the soul, and Krishna is saying that the soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. See, previously, the nuclear weapons that existed, they were not just fire weapons. Modern day nuclear weapons are only fire weapons. They can cause destruction by fire, bombs and all these things. But previously, the nuclear weapons could destroy even by water, by wind, and not just by fire. So therefore, Krishna is saying that the soul cannot be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. See, nuclear weapons in the previous ages were far more dangerous than they are there than the nuclear weapons that exist in the modern times. But when was the fear more of these weapons? In the previous ages, they feared the weapons more, or they fear the nuclear weapons more in the present age? What do you think?
Present age.
In the present age, they fear the weapons more than the previous ages, whereas in the previous ages, the weapons were more dangerous because the nuclear weapons could bring about destruction by just water, wind, invoking water, wind along with the fire weapons. So what do you think is the reason that we fear more the nuclear weapons in the modern day age, whereas they are less powerful than the nuclear weapons of the previous ages?
The Kali Yuga.
So what is it that the Kali Yuga has brought about?
The attitude, the actions of
the attitude. Yeah, people use nuclear weapons without discrimination, or people are less intelligent and less moralistic. So why is it that they are able to use it without using proper intelligence? Is because okay, why do you think Dronacharya refused to educate Karna in military science? We know that Karna approached Dronacharya and Dronacharya refused Karna. He refused to accept him as his disciple and train him up in the science of the use of military weapons. Why?
Because he knew that Karna could anytime misuse it.
Because he knew that Karna can misuse it. Why would Karna misuse it?
Because he was not a Kshatriya.
Actually, he was a Kshatriya, but it was not revealed at that time that he's a Kshatriya. So for Dronacharya, that time Karna is not a Kshatriya. And only the Kshatriyas or the Brahmanas were given this knowledge, not the Vaishyas and the Shudras. The reason being, only Brahmanas and Kshatriyas require that knowledge. No, Kshatriyas have to use that knowledge in order to protect the kingdom. Because the Kshatriyas, they have to fight, they are the warriors. So they have to have that knowledge. The Brahmanas have to have this knowledge because they have to teach it to the future generation. The Brahmanas are the teachers. So they have to have this knowledge, learn it in order to teach the others. So because the Vaishyas and Shudras do not require that knowledge, therefore it was not taught to them. And therefore Dronacharya refused Karna, which is understandable, which is fair enough, which was the right thing to do. And this is exactly why Dronacharya asked for Ekalavya's thumb, right, as Guru Dakshina. Because many people glorify Karna, many people glorify Ekalavya, saying that, and they think that injustice was done, that they were not given this knowledge. But the point was, this knowledge was only given to people who needed the knowledge and who would make right use of that knowledge. We know in the Varnashram society, we have Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. So the Brahmanas are the ones who are most interested in receiving Vedic knowledge also. Shudras are not interested in receiving any Vedic knowledge. They don't go to the Gurukulas because they are not interested, they don't like. And because they don't have that kind of Vedic knowledge, therefore they are not trained up in military science also, because they will misuse it. So therefore only deserving people were given the knowledge of these nuclear weapons. But in Kali Yuga, it's very easy for one to possess a weapon. No, many people without license, they possess the weapons. So people with improper knowledge, they have these weapons, and therefore now there is greater fear of weapons in the Kali Yuga than it was in the previous ages. Why was Ekalavya actually belonged to a tribe which was, and that tribe was actually, they were engaged in anti-social activities. So they were actually enemies of the kingdom of Hastinapur. And therefore, Dronacharya did not want that Ekalavya causes problem in the kingdom and engage in anti-social activities, terrorist activities. And therefore, Dronacharya asked for his thumb. But eventually, what did Ekalavya do? He was so expert that he started to practice, and even with his left hand, he was able to shoot arrows with equal ease after he gave away his right thumb. And then eventually what happened to Ekalavya? Anybody knows?
Did he join the Pandavas?
No. Ekalavya was killed by Krishna himself before the war, so that he doesn't cause any disturbance. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next. So Krishna is saying that the soul is waterproof, bulletproof, fireproof, and windproof, because he's saying that it cannot be cut into pieces, cannot be burned by fire, cannot be moistened by water, and cannot be withered by the wind. So these examples, this example, especially the watermelon example, we've already seen how the living entities are parts and parcel. And also another example is how individual souls are like the sparks of a fire. The spark of the fire is the same in quality as the fire itself, but different in quantity. So we are qualitatively the same as the Lord, but quantitatively different. We are only parts and parcels of the Lord. We can never be equal to God. 24.
अच्छेद्यो यमदाह्योऽयम् अक्लेद्यो शोष्य एव च नित्यः सर्वगतस्थाणुर् अचलोऽयं सनातनः.
This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble, and can be neither burnt nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same.
So because the soul is bulletproof, therefore it is unbreakable. Because the soul is waterproof, therefore it is insoluble. Because it is fireproof, therefore it cannot be burned. Because it is windproof, therefore the soul cannot be dried. So this is an extent. This is, of course, Krishna is continuing from the previous verse. And then Krishna says that he is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. So the soul is present everywhere, in all the planetary systems, everywhere in the universe. There is no place where the soul is not present. Krishna is saying present everywhere. So even in the sun planet, there are living entities. Even in the moon planet, there are living entities. On every planetary system, there are living entities, which in the world of science is not accepted so far. But Krishna says that the soul is present everywhere. Of course, the living entities who are present on the sun planet, they have the kind of bodies that can survive on the sun planet. Just as how the aquatics have the kind of body where they can survive underwater, we do not have such bodies, right? Therefore, we cannot live under the water. So therefore, living entities who are present on the other planetary systems, they have the kind of body that is suitable to be present on these other places in the universe. See, the Lord is a very, very intelligent designer, and he's not going to create millions of planets and leave all of them empty and only inhabit the earth planet with living entities. That's not possible. Nothing in the creation of the Lord is useless or is existing just for the sake of existing. Every single thing that exists in creation, every single leaf that exists in creation has some use or the other. It's just that we do not know what is the use. Everything, I mean, even we know certain things in nature which are good for health or which are good for certain diseases, but there are every single herb that exists, every single tree, every single leaf that exists has some properties that are useful for something or the other. Nothing in the creation of the Lord is useless. One example, which is very, very interesting. See, in our cells, we have chromosomes. These chromosomes carry the DNA information. And the end of these chromosomes are what we call as telomeres. These telomeres do not carry any DNA information. So the DNA information is only in the rest of the chromosome, not in these endings of the chromosomes called telomeres. And for many years, the scientists believed that this is a useless part of the body because it contains no DNA information. So it is something that is unnecessarily existing in the human body. But later now they have discovered that these telomeres hold the secret to our aging process, hold the secret to diseases like cancer and a change in a lifestyle, and has a direct connection with our lifespan, our health, and our aging process. See, at the ends of the chromosomes are stretches of DNA called telomeres, which protect and hold genetic data, make it possible for cells to divide, and hold some secrets to how we age and get cancer. Telomeres have been compared with the plastic tips on shoelaces because they keep chromosome ends from fraying and sticking to each other, which would destroy or scramble an organism's genetic information. So what this thing is like the plastic casing at the end of a shoelace. At the end of shoelace, there's a plastic. What does this plastic casing at the end of shoelace do? It protects the shoelace from fraying and letting the threads loose. So this is exactly what the telomere does at the end of the chromosome. It contains no DNA information, but it protects the chromosome, and therefore it protects the genetic information that the chromosome is carrying. If this was absent, then what would happen? They would stick to each other. These chromosomes would stick to each other and would destroy the genetic information that the chromosome is carrying. Now, as we age, what happens is this telomere reduces. It goes on reducing and goes on shortening. Now, the faster it reduces, the faster it shortens, the sooner we age or the sooner we look old, and the sooner death will approach us. So if we have the proper habits, proper eating habits, proper lifestyle, then we can reduce the speed at which these telomeres shorten. Each time a cell divides, the telomeres get shorter. Therefore, telomere length shortens with age. Progressive shortening of telomeres affects the health and lifespan of an individual. Shorter telomeres have been associated with increased increased incidence of diseases and poor survival. The rate of telomere shortening can either be increased or decreased by specific lifestyle factors. Better choice of diet and activities has great potential to reduce the rate of telomere shortening. So actually, when we fast in our Vaishnava system, we have especially the Ekadasi fasting, which comes every 15 days. And when we fast, what happens is we will reduce the speed at which this telomere reduces. And therefore, when we fast on Ekadasi, it increases our lifespan and it also improves our health. There is actually a Japanese scientist, I don't recall his name now, but he had received the Nobel Prize for his study on autophagy. You can Google it, AUTO, autophagy, PHAGY. So his study said that if we fast every 15 days for a period of 36 hours, then what happens is the dead cells or the bad cells are eaten up by the good cells in the body. This happens only when we fast. Of course, there are other ways to fast and things like that. And he did various researches, various studies on students. But then he came to this conclusion that if the fasting is done every 15 days for a period of 36 hours, then it will have the desired effect. And this is exactly what Krishna said millions of years ago is Ekadasi. That's why we see that all the fasting processes and everything that exists in our Shastras is for our benefit. So there is a reason for everything. Nothing is followed blindly. Okay, I see Ayush had raised his hand.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing about Ekadasi and the telomere connection.
Okay. So here Mambi Biswas has shared in the chat about autophagy. Very nice. Thank you, Mambi. Okay. So like that, nothing is useless in the creation of the Lord. Even that telomere, which is the end of the, for many years was considered to be useless, is actually has a very, very important role to play in the body. So how can the Lord create so many millions and millions of planets and leave them empty? So therefore, Krishna is saying that the soul is present everywhere. Every planetary system, the soul is present. Now, homework for you all is, you can Google later and see, because many parts of the body are considered useless, like the nails or the hair or the external ears or the appendix, which for many years was considered to be useless. But you Google it now and see what is the role and what is the importance of all these things that we have in our body. Okay, now, what do you think is this picture depicting? And is there anything wrong in this picture, or is the picture correct? What do you see in the picture? This is what? This big square here depicts the
Spiritual world. Spiritual
Param.
world.
Yeah, it depicts the spiritual world. And we discussed how one corner of the spiritual world is the
Material world.
material world. Yes, very nice. Now, to get out of this material world and come to the spiritual world, there are many parts of yoga. So we have dhyana yoga, we have jnana yoga, we have bhakti yoga, which we will discuss in detail later. So there are many parts of yoga to take us from the material to the spiritual world. So what is wrong in the picture? What is incorrect?
That the soul loses its identity.
The soul loses its identity. It's incorrect. Why?
Because it's everlasting. It's ever existent. So
It
how can
always
lose its
exists and it never changes. The soul never changes. Okay. So the soul doesn't undergo any change, irrespective of whether it's in the material or it is in the spiritual world. So this circle here should not be a dotted line here. This should be a full circle, because the soul never loses its identity when it merges with the Lord. Again, the spark of the fire and the fire, or the watermelon seeds and the in the watermelon, the fruit itself. Yes. So this is what is incorrect. So this is incorrect understanding. Here, is it correct?
Yes.
Here it is correct, because see, just as how the soul was in the material world, it's the exact same way in the spiritual world. So the soul always maintains its identity. The soul never loses its identity. It's not that a drop of water goes into the ocean and has lost its identity. No. The soul always maintains its individuality, irrespective of whether it's in the material or in the spiritual world. So this is the correct understanding. So we know that there are 8,400,000 different kinds of species. So this shloka from the Padma Purana tells us that there are 900 species of aquatics, 2 million species of trees, 1.1 million species of reptiles and insects, 1 million different kinds of birds exist, 3 million species of animals, four-legged beasts, and 400,000 species of human beings. So you can see percentage-wise, which is the rarest, which is the smallest percentage of bodies that exist?
Humans.
Humans. Only 5% of the total bodies that exist are the human body. So this human body is very rare. See, there are many shlokas which say that human body is very rarely obtained. See, the human body which can award all benefit in life is automatically obtained by the laws of nature. It is automatically obtained. So su labham. Although it is a very rare achievement, so su durlabham, it is rarely obtained. This human body can be compared to a perfectly constructed boat, having the spiritual master as the captain and the instructions of the personality of Godhead as favorable winds impelling it on its course. So this body is a boat, and we have to allow the spiritual master to take care of the boat of human life, because he's the captain. He's the one who's going to decide where he's the one who's going to help take the boat to its destination. But what's the guide of the spiritual master? It's the instructions of the Lord. Considering all these advantages, a human being who does not utilize his human life to cross the ocean of material existence must be considered the killer of his own soul. So if we don't use this human body to realize the Lord, then we are committing what we call as spiritual suicide. Spiritual suicide, because we are killing the soul. We are not using the human body so that we can realize the goal of human life. And other shlokas. After many births and deaths, one achieves the rare human form of life, which, although temporary, affords one the opportunity to attain the highest perfection. Thus, a sober human being should quickly endeavor for the ultimate perfection of life, as long as his body, which is always subject to death, has not fallen down and died. So until we don't fall down and die, we have to use this body in order to attain perfection. After all, sense gratification is available even in the most abominable species of life. So if we are going to use this body in sense gratification, then we are only being foolish, because that sense gratification of eating food or enjoying illicit relationships or eating, sleeping, mating, defending, all that is available even in the animal form. All that is available even in the animal form. So why to use this human body in doing that which the animals do? So it's not intelligence. Whereas Krishna consciousness is possible only for a human being. So we have to use our intelligence. While rotating in the cycle of birth and death again and again in different species because of his own fruitive activities, the dependent living entity, by good fortune, may happen to become a human being. This human birth is very rarely obtained. Now, we are more fortunate than all. Of course, we are very fortunate that we have a human body. Secondly, we are very fortunate that we have a human body in Kali Yuga, because as I discussed earlier, in Kali Yuga, it is easiest to attain perfection. It has been simplified very much for us, because this Kali Yuga is the most rotten and fallen age. Simply by chanting the holy name, we can attain perfection. So we are very fortunate because we have a human body. We are very fortunate because we have a human body in Kali Yuga. We are very fortunate if we have taken birth in India, we have taken birth from Indian parents. Again, we are very fortunate. 4, we are very, very fortunate because we have come in touch with the Bhagavad Gita. We have come in touch with the devotees of the Lord. So therefore, we have everything to our advantage. And plus another thing is, we are in this era of Kali Yuga where Srila Prabhupada left the planet just few years back. The person who has brought about a spiritual revolution worldwide. Of course, Srila Prabhupada, we can understand that is not an ordinary personality because obviously he had the blessings of Krishna to spread the message of Krishna in every town and village, in every corner of the universe, because it's not an ordinary thing. It's not possible for someone to do it unless he's personally backed with the blessings of Guru and Krishna. Okay. Many times you will see Srila Prabhupada, he would say that I have not written these books. Krishna has written these books. Prabhupada was actually empowered personally by Krishna to spread this message, to write his books. And Srila Prabhupada is not this distant saint from a distant past. He was on this planet just a few years ago. So we still have his teachings, without any contamination. So, and also we are in the same cycle when Krishna appeared. I mean, Krishna appears once in the day of Brahma. How many Brahma lives? Have we discussed the lifespan of Brahma in these classes, Gita classes?
Yes.
We have discussed. Okay.
Yes.
So Brahma lives for so many millions of life, so many millions, trillions actually. His one day is equal to millions, right? It's the 4 yugas, the duration of the 4 yugas put together is called one Divya Yuga. 1000 Divya Yugas make 12 hours in the life of Lord Brahma, and the same number of hours make one night. So first 12 hours is the day and the next 12 hours is the night of Brahma, and that makes his 24-hour period. So that's several million years. And Krishna comes once in the day of Brahma. Once in several million years, Krishna comes. But we are in the same cycle. I mean, Krishna was on this planet just 5,000 years ago. So if you look at it from that broader perspective of, once in the day of Brahma, Krishna comes, and once in so many millions of years, and we missed him by just 5,000 years. So it's not that much of a difference. So we are very fortunate that we are here when Krishna was actually, in this very, in the Dwapar Yuga that just left this particular Kali Yuga, in that cycle only we are existing. And also we are in the same, because every time Krishna comes in Dwapar Yuga, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes in the Kali Yuga. So we have missed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also by just 500 years. Only 500 years back he was on this planet. So therefore the teachings and all are still available to us without they are still available to us in the pure form, and we can access it easily. So therefore, we are very, 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 very fortunate that we have this human life in Kali Yuga. And if we are born to Indian parents or in India, plus because we have missed Krishna by only 5,000 years, we have missed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by only 500 years, and a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada walked this planet. Our previous generation only, they were personal associates of Srila Prabhupada. So therefore, we should consider ourselves to be very, very fortunate and make use of this human life. See here, God creates 8,400,000 species simultaneously, which means the Vedic version of evolution is that consciousness is there is an evolution of consciousness from the lower living entities to the higher living entities. Okay, because the consciousness in a fish or an animal or a bird is much lower than the consciousness of a human being, because the soul is transmigrating through all these different kinds of bodies before it reaches the human body. So Vedic version of evolution is that there is an evolution of consciousness, not that there is an evolution of species. It's not that the human being has come from the apes. That's not the Vedic version of evolution. Human beings have not come from the apes. Vedic version of evolution is that all these 8,400,000 species have come into existence simultaneously. So the apes and the human beings, along with all the other species, have come into existence simultaneously at the same time. Okay, so Vedic version of evolution is not Darwin's version of evolution. They are not saying the same thing. So Vedas teach us that the consciousness evolves, not that the species are evolving. Because if A evolves into B, then A should not exist anymore, right? If the bud of the flower, if the bud evolves into a flower, now we have the flower, we don't have the bud anymore. So if human beings have evolved from the apes, then the ape should not be existing anymore. But we have both apes and human beings on the planet today. So Darwin's theory of evolution is not in tune with the Vedic version of evolution. So just as how there is an evolution of consciousness, there is also devolution of consciousness. We should not think that, okay, we have got the human birth, now this is the end. We have attained the goal, the destiny. We have attained success. Now that we have the human body, we cannot go back to becoming an animal. No. Just as how there is an evolution of consciousness, there is also a devolution of consciousness. If having evolved up to the human species, a spirit soul misuses his human faculties, he must descend again into the lower species. So if we do not use the human body the way we are supposed to use it to realize God, then there can be a devolution of consciousness. We can get a downgrade. Although the soul in the human body of life still identifies with its body, he can also glimpse his spiritual identity. This spiritual consciousness is like a small flame covered by a cloud of smoke. If we fan that flame by cultivating spiritual knowledge, we can rekindle the fire of pure consciousness, Krishna consciousness. So the spiritual consciousness is like a small flame that is covered by its smoke. So we are not able to see it. But when we fan it, then the smoke gives way and we can see the fire. So we have to kindle that spark by spiritual knowledge. So the human form of life is a crossroads for the spirit soul. He is free to either descend again into darkness of lower species or end his torturous journey through repeated births and deaths by rekindling the full fire of his Krishna consciousness. So we are at the crossroads. Now we have to choose. Are we going to behave in such a way that we get an upgrade, that we can go to the spiritual world and put an end to the repeated births and deaths that we've had through so many lifetimes? Or are we going to take the other way and go back again to the human species, again evolve through 8,400,000 species, and then again get the human body? So this is a choice that we have to make. Srila Prabhupada taught us that just give your one life to Krishna. Just give your one life to Krishna. Even if you think that, why should I give my one life to Krishna? Why should I sacrifice? Why should I follow the 4 principles? What does it matter? Because it's one out of so many quadrillion lifetimes that we have spent. So even if we give one lifetime and we think that, oh, the danger is there that we may fail, we may not succeed, which of course will not happen. But even if that is the case, what does it matter? Because anyway, it's one out of so many millions of lifetimes. But definitely you give one life to Krishna. Actually, not even one life, because as we discussed previously, most of us have already crossed the halfway mark. So how much time do we have left in this lifetime? How much time do we have left before death strikes us? Less than half. So therefore, why not give that to Krishna and see the difference it will make?
Avyaktoyamachintyoyam avikaryoyamuchyate tasmadevam viditvainam nanushochitumarhasi atha chainam nitya.
Oh, sorry.
It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body.
So Krishna is saying that the soul is avyakto, it is invisible. So you cannot say that I will place the soul under a microscope and see the soul. No, it is invisible. We cannot see it with our material eyes. Achintya, it is inconceivable. We cannot understand the greatness of the soul. So it is inconceivable. We cannot understand it with our gross material senses. And it is avikarya, it is unchangeable. We discussed how the body undergoes 6 changes in the previous class. But the soul does not undergo any change. It always remains the same. So knowing this, Krishna says to Arjuna, you should not grieve for this body. So Krishna is saying that anyway, these people who are going to die on the battlefield, they are going to get a a brand new body. They are going to get an upgrade. If they will either go to the spiritual world or they will go to heaven. So they will get a brand new fresh body, youthful body. So why should you grieve for the body? The real me is beyond genes and genes, Geans, genes, and Genes, genes. So, most in Kali Yuga, one of the characteristics of this age is that we tend to judge people by their externals. So if somebody is very well dressed, if somebody is dressed in a very fashionable way, then we think that that person is worth our respect, worth our time. Or if somebody belongs to a high birth, somebody belongs to has taken birth in a royal family or has taken birth in a very highly elevated Vaishnava or Brahmana family, we think that the person is worthy. But we have to understand that the soul is beyond the clothes that we wear and beyond the kind of birth that we are taking. So the real me is beyond genes and genes. See, some countries are caste conscious. So everything depends on what kind of birth one has. Especially in India, India is very caste conscious, and in the Western world, people are very color conscious. So whether it's a caste conscious India or a color conscious America, both concepts are wrong. What is important is we have to understand that the soul is beyond what we wear and beyond the kind of birth that we have taken. Because irrespective of whether you are born in a Shudra family or in a Brahmin family or a Vaishnava family, or irrespective of whether you're dressed properly, wearing branded clothes or you're wearing tattered clothes, anybody and everyone can use this human body to realize God and attain perfection. So we have to, it takes a genius brain to understand that we are beyond genes, Genes and Jeans. So with this, we come to the end of this section, Vision of the Seers of Truth. Here you have a summary of the section. You can read it when I share the slides. Okay, and here you have a summary of the characteristics of the soul. This also you can read offline when I share the slide. Okay, let's go to the next verse.
जातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं तथापि त्वं महाबाहो नैनं शोचितुमर्हसि.
If, however, you think that the soul or the symptoms of life will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty armed.
So here Krishna is talking about reverse philosophy. He's talking about the philosophy of rejecting the soul. So Krishna is saying, even if you think that the soul will always be born. So of course, Krishna has said so far that the soul is never born and the soul never dies. But even if, Krishna is saying, Arjuna, even if you think that the soul will be born and die forever, even then there is no reason to lament. Why there is no reason to lament? Krishna will explain in the next verse. By what name is Krishna addressing Arjuna in this verse?
Mahabahu.
Mahabahu, what does that name mean?
Mighty armed.
Mighty armed. So what he's saying is that you are a great warrior. Krishna is telling Arjuna that you are a great warrior. And he knows, Krishna knows that Arjuna is not going to think like this, that the soul will be born and the soul will die. So he's not going to think this reverse philosophy, but still he's saying that even if you have to think like that, even then there is no reason to lament. Why? He will explain in the next verse. Let's see.
जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युर्ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्मादपरिहार्येऽर्थे न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि.
One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament.
So Krishna is saying one who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death one is sure to take birth again. So therefore, Arjuna, you should not lament, is what Krishna is telling him. Continuation of the previous verse. Okay. So one who has taken his birth is sure to die. The moment we were born itself, our appointment with death was fixed up. We know that death is going to coming soon at a theater near you. But what we do, we continue to live our life as though death is not going to strike us, as though we are never going to go through that excruciating process of disease, old age, and death. See, in the Mahabharata, there is an incident where there is a lake of death. So the Pandavas are in the forest and they are feeling thirsty. I think Kunti was thirsty at that time, or Draupadi. I don't recollect that properly. So Yudhishthir sends one by one, the younger brothers of Yudhishthir, they go to the lake to get the water, but none of them return. Finally, Yudhishthir goes to that lake and to inquire what happened, why my brothers have not come back from the lake to get water from there. They had gone there. So why they have not returned? So he goes to the lake and he realizes that his 4 brothers are lying dead by that lake. And then the personality of that lake tells Yudhishthir that your brothers refused to answer my questions, therefore they had to die. So Yudhishthir, and then he tells Yudhishthir that if you don't answer my questions, then you will also meet the same fate as your brother. Yudhishthir, of course, he is Dharmaraj. He always does the right thing. So he says, I'm ready to answer your questions. Tell me what your questions are. So there are a series of questions that the Yaksha asks and Yudhishthir answers. So one of those questions that the Yaksha asks Yudhishthir is, what is it that surprises you the most? What is it that surprises you the most? And what Yudhishthir said was, the thing that surprises me the most is that every human being sees his near and dear ones around him dying, but still they live as though it will not happen to them. They live as though death will not come to them. They conduct themselves in such a way as though it will not strike them. So this is what surprises me the most, Yudhishthir said. And this is what we see around us also, because we see people around us are dying, but do we learn from them? Do we think that, oh, this is going to happen to me also? I have less time to perfect my life, so better I live my life in such a way that I can pass my final exam, which is death. So we should not think that it will not happen to us. Say, if somebody is watching TV and he sees a cobra approaching him at a distance. Now, despite seeing the cobra approaching him at a distance, if he continues to watch television, what will you call such a person?
Fool.
Yeah, he's a fool, isn't it? Because he sees that the cobra is coming. He sees that death is approaching him, right? There is danger approaching him, but he continues to watch television. So time is actually like that cobra. Every second that is ticking away it means that we have less time to perfect our lives. That cobra of death is approaching us with every minute that is going. We have less time to perfect our life. Time is going, ticking away, but still we continue our activities and we are engaging ourselves in frivolous activities, watching television, sports, or reading these useless film magazines, novels, gossips, phone calls. We are just wasting our precious time. So intelligence is not to continue with these frivolous activities when the cobra of time is approaching us.
That's why it said that death is the ultimate truth.
Yes, death is the ultimate truth. That is the final exam. Okay, so we have a question here in the chat. I'm just seeing the question here. Why the human body is considered to be a superior living species? Example, a lion is the king of the jungle. So human body is considered superior because it's only the human body that we can realize God. So superiority of the body, the scale is how the body is useful for us to go back home, back to Godhead. In the body of a lion, it's not possible for a lion to inquire about the spirit soul. It's not possible for a lion to attend Bhagavad Gita classes. Therefore, but a human body, it's possible. Therefore, human body is superior. I hope that answers your question, Lal.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, so see here. This ocean is the ocean of birth and death. And here we have the living entities. We are sinking in the ocean of birth and death. The Lord is considered to be the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. We can see here the Lord is riding on Garud and he is stretching out his arm to the living entity. All we have to do is stretch our arm out towards the Lord. This is all that we have to do. And the Lord will pull us up very quickly from the ocean of birth and death. But unfortunately, we are not ready to even stretch our arm out. We are not ready to approach the Lord. So one may think that, okay, see here Krishna says, one who has taken birth is sure to die. Fine, so why should I engage in bhakti? Why should I follow the regulative principles? Why should I chant the holy name? Let me enjoy my life, because whether I'm a devotee or whether I'm a demon, I am going to die. A devotee also will die, a demon also will die, a sinful person also will die. So therefore, why should I waste my time in engaging in bhakti? Let me enjoy life before it ends. No, this is an argument most people come up with. So we have to understand that even though death is the same for devotees and non-devotees, the feeling is different at the time of death. The feeling is different. Just as how here the activity is the same, right? This one is also in the mouth of the tiger, and this deer is also in the mouth of the tiger. But are both of them feeling the same? No.
No.
Here the little one is feeling very secure. He is feeling very safe. There is no fear here because he is in the mouth of his mother. But the deer here is feeling fear because he knows that he is going to die. So although death strikes for both devotees and non-devotees, the feeling is different at the time of death. So the story of Ajamila, we will see the video at the end of the class, hopefully. And we will see how when death strikes for a devotee and death strikes for a non-devotee, what is the difference? So this we are going to hold on to. Okay, we are not explaining this slide yet. But anyway, the moral is the event of death is unavoidable, but the trauma of death, yes, is avoidable. We can avoid the trauma of death, although we cannot avoid the event of death. See, death for a non-devotee means he goes down to the hellish planets. But death for a devotee means he is united with the Lord and he is welcomed by the Lord personally embracing him, and he is welcomed by all the other residents of the spiritual world. So the destination also is different for a devotee and for a non-devotee. So the feeling of death is different, and also the destination is different. So this Ajamila Katha, if you want to directly read from the Srimad Bhagavatam, you go to your Vedaves, go to Srimad Bhagavatam, go to Canto 6, and then you have chapters 1, 2, and 3 that describe this story.
अव्यक्तादीनि भूतानि व्यक्तमध्यानि भारत अव्यक्तनिधनान्येव तत्र का परिदेवना.
All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation?
So Krishna is again continuing here with a hypothetical situation. Remember in the previous verse, he spoke about, let's go to that verse. Previously, Krishna spoke about that even if you think that the soul will be born and die forever. So here he's talking about the reverse philosophy, that even if, which is not true, the same thing he continues here. That Krishna is saying that even if you think that the created beings are unmanifest in the beginning, which is they were not there in the beginning, then they came into existence, so manifest in their interim stage, and then unmanifest again when annihilated, which is again they disappear after there is destruction. So this is not the truth. It's not that everything was void before and then it came into existence, and then again in the future everything will be null and void. No, it continues to exist. The soul continues to exist, past, present, or future. So Krishna is saying that even if you had to believe that everything was void before, then came into existence, and again will be void later, even if you believe that, even then there is no need for lamentation.
आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम् आश्चर्यवद् वदति तथैव चान्यः आश्चर्यवच्चैनमन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वाप्येनं वेद न चैव कश्चित्.
Some look on the soul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all.
So some look on the soul as amazing. So who can look on the soul as amazing? One who has understood the soul, he can look on the soul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing. So when we teach somebody else about the characteristics of the soul, then those people describe the soul as amazing. Some hear of him as amazing. So a person who's hearing about the soul, he will hear of the soul as amazing. While others, Krishna says, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. So there are some people, even after they hear about the soul, even after they hear about how amazing the soul is, still they are not able to understand the soul. So who are the kind of people who cannot understand the soul? Are those people who are materially attached. The greater the attachment to materialism, the less we will understand about the soul. So if somebody is not able to understand the soul, it's because he's too materially attached. There is a story of Bilva Mangala Thakur. Now, Bilva Mangala Thakur, the story goes that he was in love with a prostitute and he would visit the prostitute very regularly. And once it so happened that his father died. Now, when he's doing the final rites and rituals of his father, he's thinking that when will these rites and rituals be over with? Because I'm eager to go and meet my girlfriend, the prostitute. So he's so eager to meet the prostitute that he wants these rites and rituals of his father's, the final rites to get over quickly. So much is his attachment to that prostitute. And then finally, it's all done. It's raining heavily that day. It's pouring. And despite the heavy rain, he goes to meet the prostitute. And then he has to cross a river to meet the prostitute. And while he's crossing the river, it's dark, it's late, it's raining heavily. There is a dead body that's floating in the river. And he clings on to the dead body, thinking that the dead body is a log of wood. He doesn't even realize that it's a dead body. So much is his attachment to that prostitute that he does not even realize that log of wood is actually a dead body. So one who's so materially attached, he will not be able to understand the characteristics of the soul. Of course, the story of Bilva Mangala Thakur, it does not end like that. Then eventually when he goes to meet the prostitute, I just want to finish up the story. The prostitute then tells him that, you labored so much just to come to me. If you had put in so much effort to realize God, then you would have even realized God. And then Bilva Mangala Thakur has a change of heart and he realizes that, yes, actually what the prostitute said was true. And then he gives up everything and he focuses on bhakti and then he attains perfection. So then he becomes a stalwart Vaishnava actually, Bilva Mangala Thakur. So see, the soul is amazing. Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing. So actually it is very relieving. It's a relief to know that we are not the body, we are spirit souls. Because it means that there is freedom from birth, death, disease, and old age. There is freedom from lamentation, fear, and illusion. So he's actually very relieved to understand that you are not this body. But then Krishna, as Krishna said here, even after hearing about him, people cannot understand him. So there are some people. Now she, for example, she is thinking about all that she has spent on the body. So she's not happy to know that you are not this body. So people who are too materially attached, they will not understand what it means that you are not the body, you are spirit, soul. The last verse for the day.
Dehe nityam avadyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani na tvam shochitum arhasi.
O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living being.
So actually with this verse, Krishna concludes his discussion on the spirit soul. Krishna concludes his counter argument on the compassion reason of Arjuna not to fight. From next verse onwards, Krishna will counteract Arjuna's enjoyment reason. Arjuna's second reason not to fight was enjoyment, and that Krishna counteracts from verse number 31. So anyway, here, as Krishna comes to a conclusion here, he's saying that he who dwells in the body can never be he who dwells in the body can never be slain. So Krishna is giving hope to all of us that don't worry, death is not the full stop, it is only a comma. So therefore, do not grieve. Do not grieve for the body. Do not grieve for any living entity. So here you have a summary as well, which you can read offline when I share the slides in the group. This is a summary of this section. And section 3 we will see in the next class. Okay, so let's watch the video of Ajamila. I'm going to have to stop the recording because I'll have copyright issues.